Oh, okay. I will once again. I thought you will start with the introduction, but I can also start. Yeah.
100%. Usually the thing actually tells me that it starts recording, but it just started without telling me. But hey, yeah, you know what? We're here with Rob, Mask and Health Solutions podcast, and P Hanger. We're doing a little bit of a joint media thing that everybody can enjoy. Like we were talking about before, we like to consume this kind of content. We hope that you guys will too. Rob, give us a little bit about what you've been working on and more of the direction that you want to take P Hanger in.
Yeah, nice to meet you again, Conrad. Yeah, well, since in the past few months or weeks, I I saw that the people who are starting with hanging, that they sometimes get frustrated, for example, because they don't get it right with the attachment point, or they don't have the discipline to go over it all the time, and or they increase the weight too fast, and then they say everything slips down, and yeah, so it's a mess with the people because somehow they don't know how to do it. Yeah, and it's of course it's something what takes a lot of discipline and effort and experience to learn it, and therefore that's something what we may can talk today about, and also what I will talk about in my next videos on YouTube.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I'll make sure I add all the links, all the good stuff, so you can follow Rob at P Hanger, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube. And he's gonna get a lot more good stuff on YouTube. And the funny thing is that you did mention that right off the bat about consistency, where I feel like a lot of people they want to get involved in PE, but as soon as they say or you tell them, it's like, bro, it's you got to put in the work. It's not magic. You can't take a pill. A lot of people kind of get turned off by it because they don't realize how much work it really takes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gifted, or I'm not gifted at all. When we come to speak, to example, bodybuilding or so again, I
Mm.
started with the gym when I was 13, and well, okay, with 13, your hormones, your hormone levels, and so aren't like when you're a full man, a grown full man. But anyway, that's the first time when I experienced um, what's working and what's not working. There are people who, for example, tell you something about bodybuilding and how to gain muscles, and they have such a bad lifestyle. They are completely overstressed. They don't eat right. They don't sleep right. They don't train heavy enough from time to time. That doesn't mean that you have to train all the time heavy,
Mhm.
but and the mind also. I mean, there's this the sentence where where the mind goes, the body will follow,
Yeah.
and I think this also takes account when we go to hanging and to penis enlargement at all, because to be honest, and most people are not gifted, I guess, which means they won't gain 2 and more inches just from a good morning routine in the bathroom for 15 minutes or so. At least that's in my case.
Hey, same,
Yeah.
man. Same. I agree with you.
Yeah, but on the other side, you, for example, told me that pumping was helping you to gain about 2 inches. And since
Mhm.
our last call, I was pumping nearly every day.
Nice. How did
So,
it go so far?
yeah, well, I see that there's more vascularity in it.
Mhm.
And yeah, there are some slightly benefits, but it's not like that it's growing in a serious way. I mean,
Yeah.
there are temporary gains, and so also in girth, and
The
that's the
main
thing what
thing.
I recognize the most. But long-term gains, I don't know. I have the feeling that I need maybe more time,
Mhm.
but it also helps me to stretch my tunica, which is already loose. The ligamentum is already loose, and I have the feeling that it keeps me on the good side, on the expanded side. Let me
Yeah.
describe it like this, and yeah, that's something what I experienced in the last months.
No, 100%. Like for me, honestly, it's like most of my gains actually came from the manual exercises that I did first. Because I remember
Mhm.
the first thing that I worked, like I always say, is JP's 90-day program. I will never forget it now. I will always give credit to that man for designing that program. And it was a manual program, and I saw the gains, and I was like, this is unreal. But then eventually, I think it was 3 years ago is when I bought my first pump, and I'm like, try this out. But that was more for the girth side of things. Now I combine that with clamping, jelqing. And there's a lot of guys talking online right now about how jelqing is awful and doesn't work. I'm like, well, you still got to know how to jelq. I think that there's a skill component involved in that too, because jelqing has been huge in my success, man. Because without it, I wouldn't have been where I got to now, right? But for me, it's kind of like jelqing, pumping, clamping. It's kind of like more just the girth centered exercises. And then like I tried length pumping and I gave myself blisters at the top. So I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do this anymore. I got injured from it. But for me, pumping is more like a girth center exercise and more like a good maintenance thing. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I use it more for maintenance, just kind of gel, pump, and that kind of thing. Because right now, like I don't have as much time, but I love pumping just because. And like I said too, man, those temporary gains, I feel like I'm addicted to that too. But you do feel like you are loose, and it makes the stretching component easier the next day too. Because that's another thing that I found.
Of course, that's true. I would also say it's something for the head when you see the temporary gains, and also to maintenance health and blood flow, and everything feels like on top. That's right. Mm-hmm. But when I started with PE at all, this could be also like too much input with clamping, pumping, manual stretches, and so on. This could be too much input for guys who start and are not gifted. And this means, I think there is maybe false expectations outside. And this is where everything needs to come together in order to make real results. Mm-hmm. And I think it doesn't need to be the P-hanger, but any kind of conventional hanger which grabs the tunica and not the glans in order to attack the ligamentum in the right way, in the right strong way, and also in order to stretch skin over time. There's no way around it, because for example, I did also manual stretches, but however, it doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Rather, when I had, for example, maybe 1 inch or so gained. That's right. But after that, and also it was very hard to maintain this routine, because I did get a tennis elbow, because it was like too much force every day. It's like
I go to the doctor with that, say, hey, how'd you get tennis elbow, man?
And this is something it was for me. It's not easy to get the right rep and to attach the hanger with 4, 7, or even 10 kilograms, which are 20 pounds. Yeah. However, I never needed, I needed it, but not often. Most of my gains I achieved with between 4 and 7 kilograms. And this was something what was, it didn't depend on if you train, for example, arms yesterday in the gym and you have less power in the arms to do your PE exercises. So it was something what you can apply every day, again and again. And you have some kind of routine which is really sustainable. It's like every day the same, and you can increase it or not. It's on your side if you feel the stretch in the ligamentum. Mm-hmm. And it's something what's, from my point of view, or in my case, it haven't worked with manual PE.
Yeah. And one thing that I think you're 100% right is when I first started too, I started with JP's 9-day program, but then you start reading the forum posts and you're like, oh, I got to try this. Oh, I got to try that. Oh, I got to try that. Then you start making this long, like I made my own programs where I'm like, this is just dumb. When I look back at it, you're just doing a little bit too much. And it's kind of like you're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And it's kind of, for me, that was probably the worst way to go about it, because I just feel like at that point, you're just overworking yourself and you're probably not giving yourself the appropriate time to heal, right? And that's kind of the one thing I find, like, I guess with hanging, if you want to strictly concentrate on length, I honestly, from what I've read, man, from talking to you, talking to Daniel and other people too that have been involved with hanging, it's kind of, I honestly think that hanging is number one if you want to gain length, like period. Yeah. I don't think anything beats it.
Yeah, but also girth. I gained also nearly 2 inches in girth at the base from hanging, just from hanging. It was, I don't know if it was from hanging itself, like that the penis got bigger, or if the inner part of my penis was already bigger than the outside part before,
Yeah.
that's something I'm not sure about. And but it's it was a cool thing. I mean, it was also something I only measured the length, and suddenly I measured the girth, and then I was at the 17 centimeters, and it was, hey, wow, what's going on here?
It's like, I'm gonna keep doing this.
Of
No,
course.
but that's you're not the first person to tell me that, because I remember reading that in the forums as well, where it's kind of like you look at the root, right? And it's kind of like the base. And even for myself, when I started to do that, I'm like, I did see a little bit more of like base gain, right? And I'm just like, has that always been there, or has that changed? Like it's something that you don't pay attention to until you actually see that change, and you're like, okay, well, something's happening here. I don't know.
Yeah.
My theory is almost like, things are always strong at the base, whether it's a tree or a building or whatever it is, right? It's kind of like from an engineer standpoint, it's like you got to have that structural integrity. And maybe that's how the body kind of has like adapts to it. I don't know. I'm just throwing out that idea.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was also, like that. And also only at the base. I mean, I didn't experience by hanging any gains on the front or in the middle of the penis. However, my glans was bigger because there is always some blood flow, a pressure which comes to the glands, and this one helped to expand the glands. But the mid shaft didn't. There, I didn't had any gains from hanging. That's what I need to say.
Okay. But I mean, at the same time, it's like that's where you could do pumping or jellicing or something else to kind of get that.
Exactly. And I would say, or I would sign something like get your ligamentum completely stretched and cemented, and then you can really start to do all this kind of things like pumping, clamping, hardcore or whatever. And you can experience all of the other PE methods, because then it also attacks the full penis and not only the front part, which gets always restricted by the ligamentum. So once the ligamentum is really set free from hanging, then we can start to do all these other methods to maintain and get on the top and even experience more girth gains. And I think that would be something what I would say is the best way after all my experience right now.
No, and you're 100% right, because that does make sense looking at it from that perspective, where it's almost you stretch it out, and then from there you start to add the girth gain. Well, you start working on girth and all the other things too, right? And then the other thing I was going to ask you right off the bat was, if I'm brand new to hanging, what do you think would be the best way to go about it as far as reps and sets and the way that you would divide it and approach it?
Yeah. Well, I'm also just right now writing with a guy via WhatsApp who bought a hanger last week. And he's right now hanging with only 1 kilogram, which is about 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And he said that the hanger slipped down and that it doesn't hold. After that, I sent him I have some videos in the Dropbox where I sent the guys a link where they can see my web technique and also how I attach the hanger. And one thing is that they always like calculate some kind of slippage, and the retightening, it's something what's in the beginning scary, that you can see how much you can retighten. That's something what needs to be learned, and also the attachment point of the penis needs to be adjusted to it. So I guess this is the most crucial thing to take care of, and when you start. And also the rep. I mean, the rep, I will make a video of it on YouTube the next week. And you need to be careful that there are no wrinkles in the cotton band, and also the right length of the rep so that you have the right girth. And you can also work with the tilt on the hanger. So where do you need more more tilt? You can have a tilt inside the molds, And this is something what maybe isn't that important at 1 kilogram or 2 kilograms up to, let me say, 5 pounds. Then you need to start maybe to work more on your rep and where you attach the hanger there, on the penis, or the tilt even of the hanger. And this is something what will then, you will always readapt and relearn hanging when you increase weight.
Yeah, because I would imagine if you're adding like 15 pounds, you probably have to make sure things are done a little bit differently, right? Kind of like know how to secure it. But by then, most guys have already figured out like, okay, this is the way that I do it. This is the way that it sticks. And this is the way that works best for me, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was like I always, I didn't make 20-minute sets. I did 40-minute sets.
Okay.
And but I was someone who needs to start with low weights. For example, I started with 1 kilogram. Then I went after 2 minutes to 3 kilograms or 4 kilograms. In the meantime, I was, of course, retightening the hanger. And then you can see also that the hanger or the attachment point loosens up. Then you feel that you can tie it easier, more far. And then you see, okay, the tissues, they now adapt to the pressure point, and they allow that you squeeze it a little bit more. And then you can also put on the weight. So it wasn't able for me to start from minute 1 with, let me say, 10 pounds or more. Absolutely impossible for me. However, I see guys who do this, but for me, it's like insane.
You're like, no, not gonna do that. Well, no, that makes sense because it's kind of like you got to gradually build up to it too, right? It's like going to the gym, same deal. It's like we see a guy who just walks in, maybe he's going to bench 2 plates right off the bat. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, yeah. But it also, it's not necessary. If you feel a burning and a nice stretch in the ligamentum, and you will feel it directly. I mean, this guy was also right now telling me for the past 2 or 3 days he doesn't feel the stretch in the ligamentum. Then he increased the weight now to 1.5 kilograms, which are 3 pounds, and he says right now he feels the stretch again in the ligamentum. And he's also a guy who tried manual stuff and other products before, and I told him, you know what, just try it for 3 months, and if you don't have 1 inch of gain at least, and then I will send you the money back. You know, it's because it's fun for me to go to people and to explain it and to show them how to do it, because that's something what many people are just missing this, or they have a lack of information, because there's so much people around who are telling you that you will only need to make 15 minutes and after your bath or so. It's just not enough in most cases.
I don't think so, and I agree with you on that too. And to your point, the one thing that I think is true, it's like sometimes I feel like there's too much information, and that's where people kind of get confused and start trying different things over and over again. But it's almost like this goes back to the whole concept that I believe in, which is kind of stick to one thing, do it, master it, and then do something else. And, you know, when you're learning that one thing, seek a mentor. Like what you're doing is awesome because you're actually talking to these guys and telling them how to do it properly versus, you know, for myself, I remember I was just online and I remember you telling me about how you were on the bib hanger forum and he was very helpful too, right? And sometimes online, like it just feels like everybody's got an opinion, and maybe the person that I was taking it from wasn't the greatest person in regards to it, or they were just talking smack online, right? So it's good that you're doing it in this way because you're giving people structure. And I feel that a lot of guys, when they start hanging or they start pee, they have no structure. They don't really know where to go, where to start, or how to do it, right? So no, man, I love what you're doing, and I just want to go for more of it.
I couldn't describe it better than you right now. And I just mean I need to have respect also for other people and for other opinions and other genetics, of course. I mean, probably there are guys out there who will gain 2 or 3 inches with manual exercises or with pumping or whatever. But I guess in most cases it's for people who are not gifted like me, it's not possible. And there needs to be a structure and thing behind it. And yeah. I mean,
And
it also makes also a lot of sense that when you, for example, take a look at the surgeries, what are they doing? They
they're
cut the
stretching the
ligament,
ligament.
and they are
Yeah.
doing the same thing. And it's the only medical thing which is able to work somehow, if it works. And even they recommend in this cases to use an extender afterwards.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the ligamentum will reattach to the penis again. I mean, I was talking about it with a doctor, and he said also his opinion is that I don't need to, or that we wouldn't have any benefit from the surgery because the ligaments are already fully stretched. And yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it's something what's obvious or should be obvious, but unfortunately, it isn't.
No, but that's where you come in, you offer it in a way that makes sense. That's the biggest thing too. It's like when it comes to PE, like I think there's a lot of confusion, a lot of like people just kind of getting a whole bunch of data from here and there. But no, man, it's like when I talk to you, and that's the other thing too, is that you're willing to sit down and talk to me about it, right? Because I've had conversations with certain people where I'm like, oh, you're telling me about this? I'm like, hey, why don't we sit down and talk about it, make a podcast episode, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, I can't do it. It's like, well, why not, man? Come on, tell me about it. It's like, well, yeah. So I'm like, if you're willing to stand behind your product, and that's the thing too that I think is real, is that when you're passionate enough to actually design a product behind it, then put the time in to actually work and talk to people. That's when I'm like, hey, you know what? You stand behind your product. You're like, yo, if it doesn't work for you, I'll give you your money back. It's like, what's more real than that? And that's
Yeah,
why I admire what you're doing, Robert. Now, honestly, that's why P Hanger makes sense. And that's why hanging makes sense, in my opinion, too, because I started messing around with it a little bit. And well, I was into it for a while and I'm like, whoa, this is powerful, man. I think it's probably the
Mhm.
most powerful thing that anybody can do, whether they're starting off brand new or if you're an expert. Like I was already pretty well, I know PE pretty well. But when I started hanging, I'm like, this is a different kind of stretch. This is a stretch that I'm like, okay, I've never felt this before. And I don't got to give myself tennis elbow.
Yeah, I mean, I would also go this far to say someone who is already experienced with PE probably can start faster and with more weights than, for example, someone who's completely new beginning, because somehow the manual stretches also have some kind of pressure on the ligamentum, and your package is somehow prepared on the pressure.
Yeah.
And yeah, but someone who's completely new can also start, but of course they should be more careful and with less weight. And yeah, then it should be also fine.
With
And probably easier. With less weight, you will achieve faster and better the results, because you are not predetermined and not you have your ligamentum isn't how should I say, that strong like from a completely beginner.
yeah.
And I got also the mistake sometimes. I was like hanging a little bit too much, and then I made a pause for 3 or 5 days. And when I started, I also remarked, okay, um, that's not working anymore, and now I need more weight or more time in the hanger to come to the same feeling of the ligament stretch like I did 5 days ago before I started with the rest days. So that's
Yeah.
also the thing what I mentioned at the golden rules, that no rest days are also something important. And I mean, there are so many things what we need to consider to make it or to get it right. And then even if a person is able or is willing to do all the things, maybe he can't because he doesn't have the time. I mean,
Yeah.
when you are working 9 hours a day outside from home, and then you also want to have some kind of social life or whatever in the
Yeah.
evening. And then he's doing 2 hours with the penis hanger. I mean, he will go crazy. It's
Yeah.
like you need to make the circumstances. That's really important, because otherwise you will get, yeah, I think mentally sick or so.
Burnt out, man. No, I agree with you with that because it's almost like for myself, like I said, that's why I'm doing more of a maintenance routine. It's like I don't have time, man. Like I'm working 60 hours a week, still balancing a whole bunch of different things. Like my schedule is crazy. And it's like, I honestly do not have time to just be like, all right, I'm gonna spend time on this. Like, no, I'm kids, you stay over there. I got to spend time now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things where, it's a part of your life. And at the same time, depending on where you are in life, it may not be the most important thing, right? And you're right about that. Circumstances do come into play because not everybody's going to have the time to like, okay, it's 2 hours. Here we go. Right.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I believe also, I think the young people, the 20s, are probably also highly interested in this kind of things because they have the time, they are going to college or whatever. And
Yeah.
probably later, the older guys who have kids or maybe can work now from home due to Corona, or due to other businesses and reasons, they are able to have a routine every day. And that's something what then is the right environment to do hanging seriously,
Yeah.
and also to experience nice gains. I mean, yeah, that's what we want.
Well,
And
no, yeah. And I think it is like that core group that's good for it, but at the same time, it's like everybody that like reads into it is always curious, man. Like I find that people are always like, wait, you can actually make gains from this? Like tell me more, right? And I feel like, over time, it's just going to be something that's going to go from curiosity. Like, I really think it's become more mainstream, I guess, like something you might see at a Walmart or something where it's just like, oh, yeah, you can get one of these here. Hopefully by then, P Hanger's the number one right there. But tell
yeah,
me, I got a question though. Tell me more about the golden rules. I see them behind you. What are the golden rules for hanging?
well, I said, like we mentioned before, no rest days. Um, should I explain it more? I mean, or do you have any questions
Well, I
for
think it
it?
makes pretty much sense, right? Like just don't rest, kind of have a set routine and basically just do it every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then the other thing is make a healthy ritual out of it. This is what I meant with that you need the right environment for it, that you just make time for it, healthy time, and not that you skip regarding of that your social life or so.
Mm-hmm.
And stay consistent, which means for example, I was like the first half hour or so I was learning because I studied at that time. And after 30 minutes, I was lying the book away. And then I was like thinking about sex with my girlfriend or whatever, because this motivated me. And it also somehow helped me to relax, and I was able
Mm-hmm.
to increase the rate. And it was like a ritual, like some Buddha in Thailand who is doing his ritual there. It was for me like something. It's completely another state of mind in this 30 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but this needs to experience everyone for himself. I mean, if you are just watching TV for an hour or so, then that's also fine. Do whatever you want, but it helped me to focus completely on this topic. Like, for example, when you go to the gym and you hit the weights, but you don't thinking about hitting the weights, and then you also don't increase your muscle mass, because
Mm-hmm.
once in a while it's important that you give all what you have into this topic. If it's now gym or PE or whatever, you need a focus time where you have enough emotions and also a feedback from your body, which you recognize and also interpret right, that you know what you need to do next. And yeah, this comes to it exactly like in the gym. I see so many similarities to the gym and PE that
Yeah,
yeah,
man, I'm the same boat as you. I was like, you're speaking to the choir. I'm the exact same way. Where it's like, you're right. It's like you're the gym, and when you got to push yourself a little bit harder. You're like, okay, this is one of those days where I have the energy, I have the time, I got the structure, but today I think I'm gonna push for, yeah, I don't know, 3 plates and a 25 today, just because I feel different. The energy's right, and plus, it's almost like you said, that mindset thing. To me, I
yeah,
think honestly that's what kind of becomes addictive about the gym is the mindset you develop from it. Because that's the thing, it's
yeah,
like the carry over into everything else. And to me, it makes perfect sense, right? You overload the muscle when it gets too easy. What do? You add more weight. you add more duration, you add more sets, right? But it's almost like you master the foundations and then you slowly increase. And then when you increase over time, you look back and you're like, okay, wow, I can bench 4 plates
Yeah,
or whatever the case may be.
and this is a really a nice feeling. It's a pleasure. I mean, you had once a podcast with a guy who I think was in the wheelchair or something, who has
Yeah, Adam Rivera. Yeah, I just had him recently.
motorcycle or so.
Yeah, motorcycle accident.
Exactly. And he told when he's with his friends or with other people that he just can't take it when someone is like complaining about stuff and this or that. And I think this is the, let me say, healthy or the luckier way to describe such a thing, because when you go to such an emotion like this, that you can change so much by your own and that you can see that you can make a difference, then you appreciate also this kind of behavior much more than if you don't experience it. So I also can't stand people who are just complaining about this or that. It doesn't go along anymore. And because I know what I'm capable to change when I want. And it's like something what bodybuilding, also PE and other parts in your life or in my life helped me to experience just the pleasure of life. And
No, you're right, because it's almost like that philosophical approach to like, you know what I heard too is that a lot of people were skeptic when they hear PE, like, oh, you're crazy, oh, you're this, and oh, you're that. And then you could even show them. There's a couple studies out there that showed, hey, pumping after people got their prostates removed actually helped to recover, penile size and this, that, and the other. Or I could show them a study where it's like, hey, you know what, they did this, that, and the other. And there was about 3 or 4 studies that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but you can even show people data and be like, look, it's been proven in a clinical study, right? Like, it's got the backing that I think should sell your needs and maybe put your mind at rest, right? But instead, people just don't want to accept it. It's like, even when you go to the gym, it's the same deal where they'll see you and automatically be like, you're on steroids. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like, I've been working out since I was a kid, man. I've been doing this for like 20 years now. It's like steroids. It's like, no, like, but you're right. It's like when you do develop the mindset to overcome these things, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, that if that's not hard, then what else can I do? And that's when you take it into PE and people are like, yo, that's impossible. But you did it, man. Tell me how you did it. Because you get people that are either they're jealous or they want to learn.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something what I experienced with other people who never had such an experience, whether in the gym or PE. Often then they also don't experience it in their careers. And that's something when you see that this type of person is lacking in something. And you have so many people who drink everyday alcohol or smoke every day a pack of cigarettes, and these people are lost. I mean, they're reattached from their body and their mind. That's something what we can't reach with this podcast or when we talk about this stuff. And we need to be also clear about that, because there are people that we can't reach and that are not reachable, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point about that too, it's like I've been writing a lot more about fat loss because I remember I had Dr. Judson Brandeis, he's a urologist who was talking about this stuff, right? And he sent me his book. It's called The Absolute Man, I believe. And one of the biggest things that keeps popping up is just obesity and how that ties into every other function as a man. And obviously, you know what, you want to have a good erection. It's like, you can't be obese, man. Like over time, that's going to put too much stress on your body and it could affect your circulatory system, amongst other things. But the other big thing that people don't discuss, and what he was telling me was like a lot of people will become diabetic. Now, when you're diabetic, it's like your extremities, right? Your fingers, your toes, and your penis isn't going to get a whole lot of circulation, which then means they're going to atrophy, right? And now you try to tell somebody in that state you could do PE and make gains, they're going to look at you like you're crazy because they're in such rough shape that I think they have to work on the foundations of themselves, right, and their physical bodies in order to like actually be even able to get and sustain a good erection. Now you throw PE into the mix and these people just talk about impossibility. And to your point about about negativity in that. It's like, I don't need your negative outlook, because your perspective, to me, honestly, I can't reason with it, because you don't know what hard work is. That goes back to the discipline, the consistency, and just kind of getting the things right, and you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, regarding health and people who are doing or starting PE who are not healthy yet, probably this, I mean, PE in general is or should be something what is, I don't know if you know, or I don't know if it's the English word, but do you know the Maslow's pyramid?
Maslow's pyramid
Exact.
of
I mean,
needs, I think. What was it again? Needs? Table of needs? Yeah, but
yeah, exactly. Where the need is in the basement, that you have a roof over your head and something to eat and to drink, and then we go further and further. And of course, PE or penis enlargement is something really up to the roof. And if you do it while you're in the basement, then something goes wrong. It's really for people who are already, well, some kind of healthy routines in their life, and who are eager and happy to learn. And I guess that's for these people, and people who are, who have already diabetes and so on. Yeah, it gets more tricky. To be honest, I don't have experience with such with such guys. No one contacted me with diabetes so far.
I mean, I've had guys reach out to me who told me like, hey, I'm overweight, I'm working on these things too, right? But that's kind of where I'm like, hey, you should probably worry more about fat loss first. And I'm a personal trainer, so I'm like, no, it's perfect. Talk to me and I'll work upon a program. We'll help you lose fat. It's not an issue, right? And that's, even for that, like a lot of people will be like, it's impossible. It's this. It's like, no, it's not. You just need a structured plan, in the same way that we talked about hanging, right? You need structure, but without structure and without actually being consistent and sticking to it, you won't make it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'm now 34 years old. For example, I'm also looking forward to maybe have a TRT in the next time, because I measured my T levels and they were pretty low. And I don't know why. I need to figure it out. Maybe due to stress. I guess it was stress. But yeah, maybe there are also other reasons, because, for example, my health issues since I'm a child is that my, how is it called? Thyroid, exactly, that it's not working properly. And that's something where I need to take every day like 100 micrograms of a hormone. And maybe my body just don't like the thyroid, the hypothalamus also doesn't send enough signals down there, and that I'm just not producing enough T. I don't know. And that's something what's, for example, for me, something interesting what I need to take a look into the next time.
Yeah.
I don't know, how old are you? Did
34,
you measure
34? No, I haven't yet. For me, it's kind of like, as long as I sleep good, I'm all right, man. And that's kind of my philosophy. It's like, maybe in time I will, but right now I just feel like, I feel great, man. So I'm just gonna take it as is. I'm like, if I'm sleeping good, I'm all right.
Yeah, it's more something like a thing what I was. I mean, that's also when we come to YouTube, there are all these guys who are talking about
dude.
I'm just so curious about it, if there's something behind it, or how are my T levels and so on. But I'm also not 100% sure yet if this is something what we need to strive for or not. But yeah.
No, 100%. And the other thing I was going to ask you right there behind you, what does it say most effective way to stretch the legs, right? So are those the two concepts that you're kind of going with for hanging, or?
Well, this is the whiteboard of my last YouTube video, and it says that the most effective way to stretch legs is hanging. So that's where you can grasp the ligamentum the best, compared to, for example, other extenders which are not strong enough, or a vacuum extender which are just attacking or which are vacuuming the glands, and they are not attaching the inner tunica, and therefore also not the ligament in that kind of way like a conventional hanger does. And what it also doesn't stretch skin. And what we need to have to get a lower package is that we stretch the skin. And sometimes you will recognize, okay, now the weight is lying on my ligamentum and it gets stretched. And sometimes you will recognize, oh no, my ligamentum today isn't like getting stretched anymore. But hey, what's that? Okay, my skin is right now very much stretched. So we have like women, the stretching scars on
Stretch marks,
the stretch marks, like we have it on the shoulder from biceps or so.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to this place, and I mean it's not ugly or something. It's just you don't see it when it's not stretched, but that's something what we also need, where the whole body, the whole package down there needs to adapt. And that's the thing what we also don't reach, this kind of consistency with manual stretchers. I didn't reach it. I only got a tennis elbow. And that's the only way it worked for me. Maybe I had also a very stiff ligamentum, I don't know, but
No, but that makes sense, because it's kind of like, man, like, again, going back to bodybuilding, it's like sometimes if you want to really reach, like talking about bicep, right? You want to get that bicep peak, really going. It's almost like I need to up the weight, And if in this case, it's like you really want to stretch that ligamentum, it's like, bro, well, you got to up that weight, you got to up the stress. And it's almost like manuals will only get you so far. Like for myself, they work pretty well. However, looking back in retrospect, I probably would have gained more from just doing a structured length program. Because for me, dude, I spent like a decade of just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, for me, you are somehow gifted, because you already started at a let me say you had a very good starting point.
Yeah.
And from there on, it was maybe easier than for other people to gain. However, maybe there's still a lot more to gain when you start a serious hanging routine, if you find the time to. You will. I mean, that's what I believe. But
No, 100%. I really gotta, because that's the other thing now where I'm like, I want to do, like, I've messed around with it, but, well, not that I've messed around. Like, I had a pretty structured program, but the thing was, I was using a VLC tugger, and the thing could only take about 5 pounds. And it was kind of like the vacuum one that they would use generally for the foreskin extender. And I'm like, well, I don't feel the stretch in the ligament the way that I did before. And I can't really raise the weight on this because it was just all stress on the gland. So I'm like, okay, I got to hold back for now. And that's just where I went back to concentrate on pumping and gelatin, right? But eventually it's kind of like, it is on my, like, that's why I got a standing desk.
Yeah. I mean, I also experience, no doubt about it, pumping is much more convenient. You get an easier pleasure out from it than with hanging. I mean, you to you find your position, you have to do all this kind of preparation stuff. You need to get the hanger right, the rep right, and then you also can't move for the next 40 minutes or so. And it's not that convenient after all, like we have it with pumping or with just some manual stretches here and there. But also the outcome isn't that rewarding. Then
Well, yeah, you pump it automatically. It's like, yes, I'm awesome, right? But versus with hanging, it's just like, all right, cool. I think it did some. I'm gonna go to sleep now. But I was gonna ask you too. Do you ever use heat? Like, you ever use the heat pad when you were hanging too, or would you use it before or after?
Yeah. There was a time of, I believe, 4 to 5 months or so where I used the infrared lamp.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
And I used it really hardcore. I mean, I was hanging only with the infrared lamp for about 4 to 6 months. And this was I needed it at some point. I felt that nothing else is working right now. I need to get the heat inside. And there was a time where I was using it very much.
Nice. Yeah, no, I was looking at the infrared heaters too, because, well, the lamps themselves and how they actually penetrate the skin and all that, and I'm like, really gets you going. So I was like, okay, this makes sense. There's some science behind this.
Yeah, but one thing I would like to mention is when you do it, or anyone else here who listens to this, don't let the infrared lamp
Testicles.
be pointed to your testicles. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably not healthy.
No, I think from a fertility standpoint, probably not the best thing to do. It's kind of like when you're in the sauna, I think, or hot tub, they say that even that can affect your sperm
Yeah,
motility.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. For me, I got the snip snip. I got the two boys. I'm good, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I got two boys, so I'm good. And then yeah, well, that whole process of vasectomy, that was interesting. It's kind of weird. You're like, dude, you're sitting there, and then they freeze your balls, and they just kind of pull out these two strings, and they start doing. I'm like, oh God, man, I'm gonna go back to watching tennis.
Wow. Okay. How old are your kids, if I may ask? You
Yeah,
are 30.
man. One's 11 and the other one's 7.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So I got started quick. They're old already, man. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kids is also something I need to take in mind.
yeah, eventually, yeah, man. It's a great thing, but at the same time, you're right. You do got to protect your testicles. Because I
Yeah.
remember, was something else that I was reading too, where the guy was talking about, oh, just put like a heat pad right in front of you, or it was like a space heater, and he would just use this for clamping, right? And then obviously in the forum post, somebody asked like, well, what about your testicles? And he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like, well, it kind of does. And then sure enough, they started posting these studies that show that excessive heat can obviously, affect sperm motility. So it is
Mm-hmm.
something you got to be mindful of. Anybody listening, if you want to make sure that your sperm is healthy, do not be heating your balls too much.
Exactly.
Oh
Yeah, there
man.
was also some kind of guy on YouTube. He told me, or he told in general, that you can like sit for 20 minutes on ice and on an ice pad, and that this will take the balls like to retract. And
Yeah.
after that, when the ice goes away, they will expand, and then they will also produce more tea, or more sperms in general. And yeah, it's interesting.
That's
Yeah,
interesting, actually. That's like because cold therapy and the whole like cold plunge thing is something that I'm looking into as well. I myself, like I live in Canada, I'm right next to the ocean, but I'm like, do I want to jump into the ocean in the winter, man? I don't know.
yeah. Well, I'm a huge believer in sauna. I'm going every week 2 or 3 times in the sauna,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it since 15 years or 16 years. That's something what's my daily routine, or not daily, but every second day I'm trying to get into the sauna after gym. It's something what I love.
Oh man, if I had time, I would too. Oh, it's like I love the sauna, man. Sauna,
Yeah.
steam room, oh, the heat. Plus, it just helps with recovery overall too. It's like you feel more, I don't know, man. For me, I always felt like I was very like stretched out and I was less sore the next day when I would go.
Yeah, also the kind of I mean, when you take the ice bath afterwards, after sauna, when you heated it at 90 degrees for 20 minutes or so, and when you then take the ice bath and then you lay down in the chair, it feels like if you're a baby again. You are so free. You're forced to don't think on anything because your body says, no, I can't think right now of anything, just relax. And it's like a drug.
Yeah, I could imagine, man. Just euphoria. Yeah, it's something we should incorporate into the pee hanger routine, man. Automatic sauna.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
man.
so this have been I guess, the two most important advantages of the hanger in general, of conventional hanging in general. And down below the golden rules, this YouTube video you can also watch
Yeah, no,
on
I
my
saw it yesterday. I was looking for it. And I was
yeah.
like, oh yeah, so tell me more about
And I believe the next videos will be about what you need to take care of when you apply the hanger, and what the mistakes are when you start to hang, and yeah, somehow of trying to get the people more comfortable to start with hanging, and also to that they are aware what they need to do. Because probably I was always asking myself, I haven't put any video outside, only my manual how to attach the hanger um, on a science penis, and that's all. And I was always asking myself, who is buying this and how they know how to apply it. Okay, there
Yeah.
is a manual and this is written down, but when I remember back in the days how much effort and also expertise from other people I needed to get this right. I'm always asking myself, how do you do it, guys? And now I have the time to explain it more in detail, and also to take more care of the guys who are buying it. And
No, man, I look forward to it. What is the name of your channel?
Well, you can find me at p-hanger.com or de, and there you can also see, when you scroll down below, my Instagram account, and then you can see also in Linktree the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And
definitely, Robert. But no, I love what you're doing, man. But yeah, no, tell us a little bit more, man.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can also write me a mail. Usually I reply within 24 hours. And if you are eager and serious to start hanging, the deal is counting. I will refund you your money within 3 months if you have done it right. And if you didn't experience any gains, this is something what's important to me. And that's my word on it.
I love that. And tell us about the promo code you got for the Mask and Health Solutions listeners.
Exactly. MHS20, and you get 20% off of my shop.
Bam. It makes me happy, man. But man, you know, I'm always happy to have you on the show because, man, like, you just have so much knowledge, dude. And I just love what you're doing because honestly, you're making it, not only are you standing behind your product, you're making it so guys can actually achieve their goals. And I think that's huge, man. Like, I just love to see it because I wish you had existed. Well, obviously you existed, but I wish you had been around, 20 years ago when I was getting started, so I could have just, cut through the bull crap, right? So no, I loved having you on, man. I look forward to seeing more of your videos, and I can't wait for more people to learn more about you, buy your product, and figure this out and actually make gains successfully and safely in the best way possible. So Robert, thank you again, man.
Thank you also, Conrad. I appreciate it. And see you next time.
Until the next episode, guys.